Tracking the major stories in the country, the chairman of the Special Investigation Panel on the Recovery of Public Property, Okoye Ogbonna, has been asked to desist from carrying out any operation in any capacity as head of the panel. The federal government gave the directive in a letter addressed to the chairman of the panel and signed by the AGF and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami. What impact does the action cast on the corruption war? Was Ogbonna derailing the government's war on corruption or not? Data feeds are coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. You can follow us right now using the hashtag State of the Nation and tweet at me, Gemba Umar CTV, to air your thoughts. Mayati Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, wants the federal government and the National Assembly, as well as the international community, to intervene in the anti-open grazing law operating in Benue State at the moment, saying that the law was implemented without the due consultation with herdsmen in the state. What fate does the law hold for the herdsmen and the people of Benue? What does this mean to the occupation of some areas in the state? What if violence erupts in the once peaceful state? What then? The Islamic Movement of Nigeria, also known as Shiites in Kano State, has alleged that at least 2 of its members were killed in the state. A statement signed by the spokesman for the group, Ibrahim Musa, over the weekend said that the Shiites were allegedly killed by police officers deployed to stop the group from conducting the annual Al-Rabi'in trek. He said that the members started the trek from Kofar Mazugal within the Kano metropolis, where armed policemen arrived at the scene and started firing tear gas. We'll talk to our correspondent Idris Muhammad. He lives there in just a moment. It's prime time in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Omar and this is State of the Nation. Data feeds are still coming through in one place simultaneously right behind me on all our platforms. On social media, you can also tweet at Gimba Umar CTV and use the hashtag State of the Nation for real-time interaction. November 1st, 2017 was the date the government of Benue State decided it will begin the implementation of its anti-open grazing law. Well, that has so far been met with controversies by the herdsmen, who have repeatedly said that the law has not properly considered the fundamental human rights of the herders. Let's listen to a concern by the cattle breeders as the developments continue.
We are sensitizing our own Fulani people to how to live in peace. They should not destroy people's crop. Well, we advise our leaders of the Pt.1 Allah in most of the neighboring local government areas to advise to go around in various wards and local government to see that the crops for farmers are not destroyed. With this implementation of this grazing law, we also were appealing to the federal government to look into this law so that Benue State should revisit that law. We want peace. We don't want these international cattle routes to be blocked. That is our worry. If they block that international cattle route, some people are here passing to Enugu. We have Fulani that are coming from the northern part of Nigeria, passing to Enugu, Abakaleke side, Cross River State, Anambra, passing through Benue. If that road, if the cattle routes, the international cattle route is blocked, in fact, we will have problem.
Mohammed Hussein, one of the CADMAN members, categorically very concerned about the next moves for the people, for his people in Benue State. But I'm now being joined by Lawrence Onoja, the Commissioner for Information from Benue State. I want to thank you so much indeed. You're in our Abuja studios. You're very close to Benue as it is. Then myself, very far away from Benue. But the concerns are just so rife. You did hear from that report we just played. Have you been able to clear all the grey areas, one of which he says is the grazing route that cuts from northern Nigeria all the way to the northern part of Africa, as a matter of fact, and cuts into Benue State? What are you going to do about that route?
Well, thank you very much. He mentioned international grazing routes. I have no idea who created international grazing routes, but we know that in the 50s in this country, yes, there were routes that were meant as grazing for them. But as it is now, you're talking of the 50s, and this is over 50 years after. Their nomadic style of cattle breeding is simply obsolete. There has been a population boom in this country, in Benue especially, at a time when those cattle routes were existing. We had less than 1 million people in Benue. But today you have a situation where you have almost 8 million people, according to the last indices that we got, almost 8 million people in Benue State. This boom has necessitated infrastructural development, from schools to roads to hospitals to residential areas and so on and so forth. And most importantly, farmlands, because to support this population, we need to farm. Farming is the mainstay of the Benue people. And what this law is simply trying to do, according to the objectives of the law, is to prevent further conflict between the headsmen and the farmers, and also to exploit the economic potentials that ranching provides, and also to safeguard our farmland. So,
permit me to just button here. Permit me to just button, because it would seem to suggest that the Benue State Anti-Open Grazing Bill was unable to take into consideration international best practices along the lines of grazing routes, and that is why the CADMAN is raising this concern that perhaps you should have taken that step first and then carried them along. How do you respond? Did you put into consideration international laws and acts that establishes those grazing routes?
I want to assure Nigerians, and I want to assure the people of Benue State, that adequate research was done before this law was even proposed in the first place. Ranching is the international best practice. In Africa, there are so many countries who are doing. I think Nigeria is even one of the last countries where you even have a federating state insisting on ranching. If you look at Swaziland, for example, it's a country where they ranch their cattle, and their cattle provides over 50% of their GDP. Now, if what Benue State is simply saying is, look, farming is our mainstay. We simply cannot farm and raise livestock on the same land. They come, they trample on these farms, they eat our food, even foods that are being stored, they go and they destroy them, they kill people in the process. And so we're saying no longer will we tolerate farming and grazing on the same place. It's simply not possible. So what we have done in effect is to say, look, the farmlands are there and they are necessary. We agree that raising of livestock is the livelihood of the Fulanis, the same way that farming is the livelihood of the Benue people. And what we have done now, in effect, is just to separate these two things and say, look, if you want to keep livestock, keep them in one place. We will no longer tolerate them going up and down, destroying farmlands.
Because people are really concerned and wondering how...
And for them to say...
My apologies.